Up next, I would like to welcome the wonderful Sophie Vo, who's going to be talking about the 5 self-sabotage patterns of founders and why founders fail their startups. So, welcome, Sophie.
So, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a nice evening and still late morning are fresh for this talk. So, let's begin. I wanted to say first, again, super pleased to be here. First session of PGC in Barcelona. I worked with PGC for the past years, and I've been also away from game events for a year and a half. So just glad to be back on stage and to share what I've been doing when I was away. And I know some of you in the room, but I don't know every one of you. So maybe to give context of where I'm coming from today with the talk. My background has been in gaming. I've been in different teams, organization, the whole cycle of development of games. So launching game, developing games, killing games, growing games. Same process with studios as well, building teams, and unfortunately closing teams and ventures. And a year and a half ago, I decided to bring all the learnings I've had, all the patterns I've identified into my independent business, focusing on what I love the best, working with people, but also focusing on what has the most impact, the leadership. So leadership coaching and coaching executives in games. So what I'm going to share today is based on a lot of insights I collected from my time talking to over hundreds of founders. You can check the podcast I have, Rise and Play, which is interviewing some of the founders reflecting on their journey, sometime after closing a studio or a company. So a lot of insights there. But it's also from my own conversation, which are happening here. And you can count about 1,000 of hours, so I know what I'm talking about. But also my own experience as a founder. Because again, I started 5 ventures, and I shut down 4 of them, and 2 are still running. So what are we dealing with here? And that's also how I approach coaching and leadership. Usually people come to me with what is the surface of a problem, the business problem, the game problem. My game is not working. I can't launch this game. My team is not working. The market is difficult. This is usually when people come to me. But the work we really do is what is beneath the business problem, the real problem. And I can tell you it's very deep sometimes. And this is where we go with the people I work with and what I'm about to share. So let's begin with the first self-sabotage habit and pattern of founder. First one is shutting down your intuition. And this is one that is not talked about because nobody knows what is intuition. We are here, we have data, we have a market telling us what to do, what we know. So who needs intuition? But I want to share a story with a founder I've been working with for the past 6 months. The story is this. He actually raised, I think, 3 million. And while he spent those 2 millions, he launched several products, built a team, led to nowhere, and finally contacted me after 2 millions used. Then felt maybe there's something a little off. And so when he contacted me, he's like, well, this is the state of my business. I launched those products. I'm not very convinced of what I'm doing, but I don't know where to go. And my approach to coaching is not conventional, where we don't sit down on a Zoom call and try to analyze all the market and what went wrong. We went for a long, long walk. So he lives in Switzerland, and I spent a few days with him just to make an audit of what went wrong here. Because before this venture, he's actually had success. He's a creative genius in film and brought his knowledge to games. But he lost his way. And so a lot of the conversations were not about the business. They were a lot about okay, what makes you feel alive? When was the last time you felt alive? And of course, like, I don't know. Like, what do you like? Why did you start this company? I don't know. What do you believe in? I don't know. So a lot of the conversation was, for that founder, he completely lost touch with himself, and he didn't know. So he couldn't even think of where to go because he didn't even know who he was. He was burnt out. So that's one of the most common problems I've seen. And only until we talk to that level, we realize there's something much deeper that has happened. And that leads to other symptoms that I'm about to share, is when you don't know who you are, you don't know your way, then you start to behave like a people pleaser. And honest question here, who is in this room feels like they're a people pleaser? Raise your hand. Okay, few brave ones, you admit this. Guess what? I think most of us are people pleaser. And that's where the problem is, because for the ones who think they are not, they are as well. And usually the symptoms I see, if you're familiar with the 5 dysfunction of the team, this is like a common, basically it gets in the way of team performance. But how it manifests when you're a people pleaser, for example, it takes you 6 months to change your team when you know you hired somebody or you hired the wrong team because you already changed direction of business. And you think, oh, maybe we can make it work with that team or with that person. And 6 months is already too long. Other symptoms, that product. Well, the team likes the game we've been working on. I don't believe in it, but the team believes in it, so let's keep going with it. A year carries on, and then nothing changes. And the only person that can make a difference is the founder and the CEO. But the team is carrying the game they want to do, but it's not the game for the market. And the worst I've seen as a symptom, the dynamic is co-founders. This is one of the reasons why companies dissolve. And in private conversation, I have some of those realizations. I don't want to work anymore with my co-founders. Like, okay, what are you doing? Well, we see how it goes. We try to make it work, and usually it never works. So those are the symptoms of people pleaser, when there's that fear of conflict, that fear of displeasing, because you will. That's the responsibility you take when you start a business. Then it gets in the way of performance, and it's dishonest to everyone, actually, in the team and to your investors. And as you run by people pleasing, this is how you lead. And I identify this also with founders I work with. I call it the fear-based leadership, and it's not always recognized. But I want to share that picture. I don't know if you know that guy from Inside Out. You know the movie with emotions? So the second movie is Anxiety, that person there. And the typical founder or CEO, which is fear-based, it's not so much in the external metrics or things you can see, it's in the behavior. They lead by FOMO. They go to all the events, they talk to all the investors, they're chasing what's hot in the market, and they're fixing the bugs late night, and they're shipping, I don't know, features in the game. And I'm seeing like, what are you doing? You're doing everything but actually knowing where your company is going and what you're building. And I've seen that more common than we believe, because at this point, this kind of leadership is, okay, based on fear of displeasing the team, displeasing investors, and looking like you're wrong, right? I don't want to look like a failure, so I'm going to do everything that will disprove that I'm a failure. But it's unfortunately going against the business. And usually when founders have done that for a while, because they can do that for a while until they burn all the cash in the company and they burn themselves, the tank is empty. And what that means when the tank is empty, what are the symptoms usually? So it looks like burnout. And I have to say, I'm giving here a big reminder, because I've worked with founders burned out. When you reach that point where the tank is empty, it takes much more effort to come back to just a decent, normal level of good thinking, strategic thinking, and being just okay. So it's unfortunate that we have to reach that point, so I get to help and support, because usually when I intervene as a coach at that point, it's not to turn around the company and grow the numbers, it's actually to limit the damages. And so usually the process that comes after that, it's more, how do we reset this company? Although they try everything possible to not do it, this is the only way through. But I believe if we would have talked a year earlier, 2 years earlier, we wouldn't be in that situation. So ask yourself, how far are you pushing the button to have your tank empty? And the last self-sabotage habit is, despite all of that, because I think deep down, the CEO and founders, they know something is off. They know it. And still, they don't ask for help. And it's a bit of a trap because you go so deep, so down, and when you already failed, you know it. You failed your team, you failed the market, you failed your company, and investors start to ask questions. You especially don't want to ask for help because this is when you admit defeat. But this is still, I would say, still the time to do it. And all those issues, they come from the same root, which I'm about to share. And maybe you can relate to those. Self-love. Yes, it is about self-love. Usually that translates to self-confidence, self-knowledge, and self-care. Or should I say more the lack of it? And why is it the source of all the problems? Because when there's not a minimum level of self-love or confidence, then usually founders, they have no idea of themselves, their limits, who they are, where they are running by autopilot and subconscious patterns. They can't take care of themselves. And some striking statistics I want to share today, those are the numbers. So those are numbers that I've been following across several studies, polling founders, hundreds of founders, about how they're feeling running their business after a few years. They report, 70% report chronic stress, 60% loneliness. Can you relate to that, if some of you are running your company? And the funny thing is, like, when people read the statistics, because they're out there, I'm not making anything new, I always have founders thinking, yeah, but I'm part of the 30%, 40%. I'm an outlier. It's not for me. I don't have stress. I don't have loneliness. I'm telling you, it's coming for you eventually. I know because I followed them at the start of the journey, in the middle, at the end. And this is where most likely you will end up by the nature of the demand of a business. So my message today for investors or founders health is no more a luxury. I hear like coaching, yeah, I'll do that when I have funding, when it's nice. It's not a luxury. It's a liability. And I'm working today with funds where they are aware about that now, how to invest better in companies and equipping properly founders so they can do the work. And it should be a business priority. So I want to ask you here in this room, kind of personal question, who's brushing their teeth every day? I hope it's okay, we are here in a safe space, it's fine if you don't. All right, so what I'm about to share is the brushing your teeth of a business. What is it? Surprise, surprise, therapy. Yeah, therapy. I don't think we reach a point where there should be stigma about therapy. I have so many founders who work with a therapist. Like now they talk about it on the podcast. And still, I don't know, there's a stigma and a shame. I think you can remove that shame. It's healthy, actually, to equip yourself with some support, somebody to talk to, and know it's not your spouse, and know it's not your friend, and know it's not your team. It should be someone external. Coaching. And the difference between therapy and coaching, therapy is more, okay, maybe you have baggages that are manifesting in your business. You're looking for that external validation to prove finally to the world that you're worth something, and you need to perform with your business. That's a matter for therapy. Where I act in coaching, it's more with all the insights you have, all the problems that are manifesting in the business, how do we turn this around by actions and behavior? So the coaching is more future-oriented, goals-oriented. Therapy is more the analysis of your life, if you want to see it this way. Another format I've been working with, and maybe this is new for you, it's a mastermind. So you can think a bit about like the therapy, group therapy for business, or the AA meetings, where I bring together founders, leaders who share common challenges, and they talk and share openly with full confidentiality and no shame, no judgment, to talk about the hard things and give each other advice, mentoring through private conversation. So I work with game funds, for example, in that capacity with a group of founders on burnout, for example. And another modality I started to develop is retreats. So if you start to see retreats coming to you in the business, This is what's happening, why it's happening. Because those are the spaces where you finally force yourself to take that step back, that time to ask yourself the right question. What am I not doing right with my business? What's gone wrong with my life? And so retreat helps a lot to take that step back in a forceful way. So this is the kind of work I've been doing a bit away from games. That's why I can share those insights today. I've been working especially with women in leadership because there are also more specific challenges in these roles. And we've been in intimate spaces to share and to grow together and figure out the way to navigate through the challenges and build or rebuild businesses. So at last, for the last minutes I have with you, are you still not convinced? Maybe you think you're still the outliers? Yes? No? I know that conversation because I'm doing this also talking to clients, transforming clients. And one thing I find very impactful, because people don't act out of proactiveness, aspiration. I want to be a better version of myself, they act out of pain. So I'm going to share something very painful. And that's all we fear at the very root is to die. So what's at stake for you is the death of your business, first of all. But it's sometimes the death of things that are irreversible, the death of your relationships, the death of your marriage, the death of a relationship with your children that you didn't see grow up. I hear all of this conversation in private settings. So maybe reminding that, I hope you take the right decision for your life. And sometimes it's your own death. Because back to the statistic I shared about chronic stress, burnout, people go to hospital. And I can tell you the lifetime is halved after you go that deep, that bad in the health. So is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to run the business this way? And if that's not enough, I'll talk about money, because usually money sometimes is more painful than your own health. This is the kind of money I've been working with company, burning that amount until they realize, maybe I started this company from the wrong foot. Or you can decide to brush your teeth for 50K. This is like the maximum amount you can spend over a lifetime of a business, investing in your therapy, coaching, or whatever mastermind. So think about it, and this is what I present also to funds. Really, are we saving money in the right places? So I finished at last. If you want to take a screenshot of that and remember, maybe this is something you remind yourself as well as you start your company, where you are. And what is your salvation then to those self-sabotage habits? I would start just with self-awareness. So you being here in this talk today, I hope listening with attention, being aware of what's coming as you run your business, but other support systems, therapy, coaching, mastermind, retreats. So I hope with that, you remember to brush your teeth, have your business hygiene, and thank you for your attention. And we have 2 minutes for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sophie. Does anyone have one quick question for Sophie before we move on to the next one? Yeah, over here, please. Could we get a mic over here? Quick. Just over here. Hand up, Claire. Claire, hand up as high as you can.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. I think it was really eyes-opening from my perspective. The gaming industry has changed a lot. I think from a coaching perspective, there is so much to do. Is there some new patterns you saw emerging in founders after COVID, for instance, where the industry was on a big spike, now it's going down? So what are your main patterns right now you are seeing?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Claire. We were on the rise, so where everything was turning into gold because the industry was booming and I was part of was high. And I think now the main challenge for founders is like, you can't just go out there and talk about a good idea, get money. In a way, this is controversial what I'm about to say, but having a lot of money for some founders was not very helpful because they didn't train the muscle to run the business. So now the business are stress tested, and usually there's a gap of leadership, building teams, even resilience in the level of founders. But founders have built several companies before they built that one they raised. So I think here there's learning the discipline on how to actually run a business. And that's what's happening for the ones who have burned the cash on the first wave.